I don't know if I told you, but I came home and cried because I was just so grateful that like we were surrounded by such wonderful people. And so I have a lot of gratitude. Oh, am I about to cry?
Hi, I'm Laura Petrucelli.
Hi, I'm Yena Kim.
Welcome to MythBarkers, where we make pet parenting easier by sniffing out the facts and debunking dog tales.
So we have wrapped up season 2 and looking back at the season 2 guests that we've had. I'm very, very happy and proud to say we've had some really impactful, incredible, knowledgeable people on. And really excited to sort of go through them all because, I know after every episode we have so many additional questions. And it's always good to have a recap of all of the golden nuggets that have been dropped.
And oh my goodness, so it's the end of the year, right? We did season 1 and 2. We launched in March, which is just crazy to think about now that it's December and we're wrapping a second season, episode 24 today. This is wild. What a journey this has been.
And that's like 24 very personal connections that we've made because like what I love about podcasts is we don't have to have the small talk. We can just get straight to the deep stuff, the stuff that we care about. And again, I think personally, throughout all of the guests that we've had, what I realize is there's always a common thread. And it's always that the guests that we have on here are doing things that they do for animals out of like the love of their hearts. And at the end of the year, to think about that and to know that there are so many incredible people out there that spend their time, money, and energy towards the well-being of animals and dogs just makes me feel so good. It gives me that warm, happy glow in my heart that I really need at the end of season. So we're excited to go through each guest a little bit to talk about the learnings that we've had.
Yeah. So similar to season 1, we focused on topics like health and wellness, training and behaviors, adoption and rescue. But we also decided to start featuring some content creators and incredible entrepreneurs that are dedicated in the pet space. So it's been really exciting to kind of expand what we're focusing on and learn a lot. I think we should start with health and wellness and talk about what we dug into this season.
Yeah, we started with Dr. Lindsay Bullen, who, all of season 1 we were hunting for a nutritionist because we had so many personal questions that we wanted to ask about our dogs and their nutrition. And she is a veterinarian and a board certified pet nutritionist. We really wanted to ask her everything about dog food. What should we be feeding our dogs? Is it true what they say, what we're sold as ads on Instagram and beyond? Is kibble really killing our dog? All of this like sort of fear mongering and guilt tripping of pet parents because they know that we love our pets so much and that we are going to freak out if we're doing the wrong thing for them.
Yep.
So that's one of the first things we asked. We asked, is kibble bad? And of course, the answer we expected was yes, but the real answer was not necessarily. So with pet food, it's really important, she told us, to make sure that you can research and see who is involved in the process of making the food. Are there board certified nutritionists who are advising whether this is the right kind of nutrition that is all encompassing, all balanced for your dog? And there are also so many different types of dog allergies and nuanced things that we learned. Like human nutrition, dog nutrition is not one size fits all. It's really going to be about figuring out what your particular dog needs and catering to them. And that, like human beings, requires trial and error, a little bit of testing in order to get the right type of food.
Yeah, one of the most maybe surprising revelations she shared is that the higher the price point doesn't actually mean it's a better quality food. And also, it made me realize how much I have fallen victim to the marketing messages thinking that fresh, raw, homemade has got to be better than this kibble that you buy off the shelves at a big box superstore. But it actually turns out these big brands have the money to invest in the research and the quality control and all of the things, they're actually doing it right. So we really shouldn't poo-poo brands that everyone knows. That was really a surprising thing. I'm totally thinking about dog food differently now. She
Yeah.
also shared things to think about, in terms of making sure that every dog's diet is complete and balanced. So what to look at on the bag, as well as where you can look into the transparency of the dog food that you're currently using. Online, which I think that was, really interesting if people want to do the legwork to actually see there. Some other really helpful tips that I know I benefited from learning was talking about, how to recognize when a dog's diet isn't like really best suiting them. And okay, this is a big one. When do you really need to be concerned about a dog's diarrhea? So like regular diarrhea, not necessarily normal. It's concerning, but like when do you need to panic and go to the vet, or when can you kind of just ride it out? It was really interesting the way she put it. And I'm hoping people will go back and listen because I think every dog parent can benefit from hearing kind of her advice.
Yeah, because every dog parent has experienced unexpected dog diarrhea and been like, do I go to the vet now or what do I do? Do I change their food? So what Dr. Lindsay Bowen told us was if your dog has gotten into the trash or definitely eaten something that they shouldn't have eaten and they have diarrhea, this is like a one-time thing. So there's no need to change their food. If otherwise, they're fine. If the diarrhea persists, of course, that is a issue that we have to look into. And this happened to my dog recently where he, I don't know what he got into. He's a naughty boy. He gets into everything. But he started having this diarrhea, and I really couldn't figure it out. And the advice that I got, both from the vet as well as online, was, oh, give them a bland diet of chicken and rice. And it's like, first of all, if your dog is allergic to chicken, that's going to make the diarrhea much worse. And also, like, there's no such thing as a bland diet for dogs. So it doesn't really mean anything. And so that was a revelation because that's unfortunately what I did for my dog, and he didn't really get better. I just had to give him his regular food, lots of hydration, lots of rest, and eventually, over time, I think it was like, close to a week, he was fine. He returned back to his normal state. But we can be given so much wrong advice. So it was really nice to have an actual board certified nutritionist tell us what the deal is
Yeah,
directly.
I cannot tell you how many times I have fosters that reach out. They're like, oh, the dog has diarrhea. Like, this is a regular
Oh,
occurrence. And trying to sort through, is this just a one-time thing? Did they get into something? Is the diet
yeah.
not work? Like, we're kind of going through this process of elimination, but it's like, okay, we don't need to panic every single time, especially if it's short term. So I've definitely learned a lot from Dr. Lindsay. But there's also like so many more questions we wanted to ask her. I think we only
Oh,
got through
so
like half that we had prepared.
yeah, yeah, and she was very, very clear about everything, and it was like everyone that we speak to, it's a very common sense approach where we might have these like, sort of like blanketed questions, and then it's always like I love hearing maybe and it depends because that means that it's catered to your dog specifically. That means that it's not a like a blanket solution, it's a tailored specific solution for your dog. And in every field of like dog well-being or health wellness, that has been the case, as well as behavior too. It really is like depends on your dog.
Nothing is black and white in the
No,
dog space.
no,
Nothing,
no. That
which
we're
is,
learning that very, very clearly for sure.
yep. Also, under the bucket of health and wellness, we had Jess Adams, who is a licensed professional counselor who has a coaching practice that is dedicated to helping dog parents and dog trainers navigate the emotional side of life with complex and challenging dogs.
Yes.
This was one that really resonated deeply with Yena and I as having reactive dogs of our own. The emotional journey that a dog parent experiences when they have a challenging dog, it's a lot and it can be really isolating. And I feel like talking to her just validated everything that we felt and just realized like we're not alone. Like there's so many of us who feel this way. And so realizing it's valid and coming together to support each other is such a meaningful thing. So I love what Jess is doing.
It really is quite a phenomena. I think there are pockets of people who really resonate with how we feel. Raising a reactive dog can be very challenging. And again, in many ways, I always felt like I didn't have the answers or I was doing something wrong. Or, the emotions that you feel that are not necessarily positive when you have a dog that requires more effort, it can feel very frustrating and just to know that there's a community of people that feel the same way. And, Jess herself, she had different expectations of her dog. But then because of her dog, she was able to start to reach out to other people with reactive dogs and start this beautiful movement. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things about having a reactive dog. A reactive dog teaches you things that you absolutely just need to know, need to learn, and also opens up new areas of your life where you can lead with patience and compassion because they've literally given us the training. And now, because we have experienced this, we can come from a place of knowledge and knowing when we speak to other reactive dog parents. So there was a real, like, if you know type of moment. And so just to feel seen was so good for this episode.
Yeah, and I think there's like maybe, I don't want to say shame or embarrassment, but like it's tough sometimes. And so when you feel like you go through all of that and you don't have help, you don't have anywhere to turn, or you don't think anyone else understands, like you further isolate, right? And it can directly like impact your mental health and your
Yeah.
emotional state. So knowing that there's a community out there that, that is there to support you, I think that's amazing. Her Coping of Canines course seems to have incredible tools to help parents and dog trainers who are looking for help and support. I think one of the biggest things we kind of like touched on in that episode also was the importance of self-care. Like you need to take care of yourself so that you can show up for your best self as a dog. And I don't know, but like being a dog mom, I'm so focused on their needs. What do they need? My dogs, the foster dogs, like, okay, making sure everyone gets exactly what they need. And at the end of the day, you're just like, oh my God, it's exhausting. And then you get to the end of the day, you're like, I'm just so exhausted for myself. And it's like, wait, I need to actually take care of myself to better show up for my dog. So still
For
working on that.
yourself, Laura.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm still working on it. Seriously.
It's a really good reminder for pet parents of reactive dogs to have a lot of compassion for yourself, patience for yourself as well, and your dog. And yeah, self-care is incredibly important. I feel like I'm guilty of sort of sheltering myself and Luke because I knew that he was reactive. And this year, something switched, and Luke gave me courage to get him on play dates with other dogs, and he really surprised me, and he just gave me so many positive notes of progress. And so that was such a like life altering happy moment for me. I met other people that have reactive dogs and was able to get them to a point where they can enjoy their life more. And then, you know, we also had another guest who made this easier, who was Clara Hewson,
Yeah.
of the muzzle movement. She started a company that basically fought the misconceptions and, I guess, taboo-ness of dogs wearing muzzles, where they were seen as aggressive. But again, there are 100 different reasons why a dog might wear a muzzle. Maybe they have a habit of picking up chicken bones on their walks, on their streets,
Those scavengers. Yep.
the scavengers, maybe they have a habit of like picking at themselves or like gnawing on their paw, and maybe that's why they need a little bit. Maybe they're going through some medical thing. So, just in general, spreading the awareness that a muzzle dog is not necessarily always an aggressive dog is so beautiful.
Yeah. And, equally as enlightening as learning about all of the use cases for muzzles, including recovery from surgery. How
Yeah.
many dogs hate those giant e-collar cones that they're bumping into everything? The
Can't get
idea,
into any doors.
oh
You're
my
like,
God.
"Dude."
One of my dogs would like be like, I'm paralyzed. I can't walk because I can't see. I don't know what to do. Like I'd never even thought about it, but the idea of putting a muzzle on them
Yeah.
to keep them from licking, but they could still experience their life fully. That's such a novel idea. I think also really important that Clara talked to us about the different kinds of muzzles, because this is something that's also there. Like there's not enough education because there is a stigma with muzzles and people associating muzzles with aggressive dogs. So she really talked about the different types of muzzles and how intentional she was in her design of the product, that she makes these beautiful, well-constructed muzzles that are also bright colors. So they're more fun and approachable, I think.
Yeah.
But talking about certain muzzles are actually not good or not safe. If your dog can't pant, if your dog can't drink water, if your dog can't take treats, like that's not the right muzzle. And my sister, she heard the episode. She was like, oh, I want to try muzzle training. And the first one that she found that popped up on like, whatever Amazon is like the wrong kind of muzzle.
The one that
The
shuts
fabric
their
muzzles
snout
that
completely. Yeah.
keeps their snout shut. And like, I'm like, oh no, this is not the right muzzle to muzzle train your dog. Your
No.
dog's not going to be able to breathe or take water. Like we need people to learn more like, okay, now what are the right kinds of muzzles and what are the wrong kinds of muzzles?
Yeah, those muzzles that completely shut their snout, I don't think it can be put on for more than a few minutes because they literally can't pant, they can't lick, nothing. So that is very important. The difference of different categories of muzzles, as
Yeah.
you said, is crucial. So if any of you are listening and you want to muzzle train your dog, do some research. I would recommend going into the muzzle movement just to see how different muzzles should fit to give your dogs the freedom to lick, take treats, to do whatever they need to do and still be comfortable, still live life. One thing I really love about the muzzles that are able to give them this freedom is for reactive dogs and dog parents, it's always a worry that there's going to be some altercation. What if I take my dog outside on a walk or to meet this dog and there's like a thing, an issue? When your dog has a muzzle on, it actually gives them more freedom to explore the world without like negative consequences. I think this is a part about muzzles that people don't talk about. They immediately see and go, "Oh my God, that's so cruel. Why
Yeah.
would you muzzle your dog?" But they don't know the backstory and they don't understand the point of the progress or development they're in terms of behavioral issues. And so if they have a muzzle, like I can take Luke to the subway now without fear. The worst that will happen is he will like shoulder bump another dog or another person. That is the worst that will happen. So for me, it really regulates my nervous system and makes me feel more comfortable about taking him everywhere and anywhere. And that is something that Luke now gets to enjoy because of a muzzle.
You've opened up his world. You get to do so many more things while keeping him and everyone else safe. And that is huge. And I would love to be able to help fight the stigma and shift the perception of these because dogs that are wearing muzzles are dogs that are training. They're
Yeah.
in training, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the dog. The pet parent has made a decision to help keep everyone safe and to, let the dog expand their world. So I think it's really incredible what Clara and the muzzle movement has done.
Yeah, it's like they're in school. Like, class is in session, got your muzzle on. So cute. We also had Jamie for the second time, which was really incredible. And she really, Jamie is so
Jamie Iannello,
amazing.
yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
So she talked to us about specifically how to create harmony in a household between dogs and kids, which is a very specific topic, but something that is very, very important. Because if people have this part right and understand how to create harmony between dogs and kids, it's really going to prevent any issues, any altercations, any tension. And I loved how she stressed, giving dogs the space that they need. We always talk about personal space, but what about your dog's personal space? And how are we protecting their day to day, hour by hour, by making sure that when they want to have alone time, they can do that. They have a safe space where they can just chill out, have their me time, because they too need that. Even though they're not people, they need personal space.
Yeah, and when Jamie joined us last season for one of our first episodes, we talked about the importance of understanding dog body language and how dogs communicate without words. This episode, all about dogs and kids, also really hit home the importance of understanding dog body language and dog communication
Mhm.
because dog parents who also have kids in the home need to understand how to recognize when the dog is uncomfortable. And actually, I'll go even further. It's not just dog parents with kids, it's dog parents in general. You need to be
Yeah.
able to advocate for your dog and recognize when your dog is uncomfortable in situations because how often are you out in public with your dog and a kid comes running up to the dog wanting to pet the dog? Sometimes they ask, sometimes they don't. It can happen really quickly. You need to be able to advocate for your dog to keep everyone safe. And so that was
Yeah.
a really important thing that she talked about, as well as how to keep dogs and kids safe in homes for families who have babies, toddlers, kids, etc. And The guide that she's created, the Guide to Household Harmony, is a wealth of knowledge and resources. It has tips and tools, things that will help explain what kids can do with your dogs, what role they could have in their lives while they're keeping everyone safe in the house. So it's an incredible resource that anyone can access on leadtheleash.com on her website.
Yeah, please take advantage of these resources because she's so knowledgeable and she takes a lot of time and effort to put these together so that more families can just be safe and have harmony in their homes. Really also love the practical solution she had of like separating rooms. So, you know, maybe this section of the room is where the kids play and there's like a little door
Baby
and then
gates, anything.
baby
Yeah.
gates. We love baby gates.
Yep.
And, you know, maybe then the kids can be here, the dogs can be here for a bit, and then they can come together, you know, for a little bit when the time is right. But that just ensures that each get their own space and their own space of safety. That is so easy, so practical, so sensible.
So
Just
important.
yeah, so important because these are things that could, you know, prevent certain things. So we love that, and we were so grateful that Jamie Iannello came back and gave us such wonderful, wonderful tips.
I might get this stat wrong, but I think she highlighted something like 70% of dog bites happen in the household. So this is something that more families need to know, and pet parents really need to better understand how to read
Yeah,
dog body language, how to advocate for your dog, and how to keep your dog and everyone else safe, at all
yeah.
times.
And observation is a really key factor here because if you have a dog that likes to resource guard, these are the times where they're going to be very heightened. Their emotions are going to be heightened. So things to watch out for, things to avoid,
Yeah.
um, all on leadtheleash.com. And then I'd love to swerve into the adoption and rescue space. We spoke to Katie Hansen, who is the Director of Marketing Communications at the ACC of New York City. I really loved talking to her because we got to speak on the negative connotations that quote unquote kill shelters have. Now, there's like a huge misunderstanding that these centers are awful and evil for, you know, putting down dogs and cats and, you know, they should be banned, etc. There's a lot of finger pointing here, and what was really enlightening to learn was the ACC really have such a loving staff and they do everything they can in order to save the animals. So the way that ACC is different from other shelters is that they have to take in any animal that is brought to them. They don't turn away any animal. Other shelters or rescue organizations get the chance to choose who gets into their rescue system, who they handle, all of this stuff. The ACC, they do not have that option. They will take in every animal, right? It can be a dog, a cat, a snake, whatever animal shows up, they will take in. So they have a lot of work on their hands. And so they collaborate with a lot of different shelters and rescues in order to get as many dogs placed in homes, placed in fosters as possible. But again, when the numbers exceed the facility's ability to hold animals, they have no choice but to put animals down. And I think this is where we have to be more fervent about saving the animals rather than blaming the people that are absolutely doing their best. And you could see in her eyes, she's experienced her staff and her team go through so much pain and turmoil because they have to see dogs suffer all the time. And I can only imagine day in and day out, like how much stress, how much grief, and how much trauma they have to carry. And so for this episode, I had like so much compassion for the team because not only are they doing all this, but they're also holding the misconceptions and the blame for so many things that they have nothing to do with.
They're highly scrutinized. The city's shelter system, the Animal Care Centers of New York City, they take in over 15,000 animals a year, including nearly 6,000 dogs. That is just an astronomical number. And the influx just significantly outpaces the placement of these dogs. And unfortunately, she shed light on how housing insecurity is one of the largest contributing factors to pets being surrendered. She explained how they handle the surrender process, how they work with their partners through their New Hope partner program that relies on other rescues like our friends at Money Paws Rescue, Korean Canine Rescue, one of the groups I work with, SNAR Northeast Animal Rescue. They rely on those partners to take the animals. They're maybe not perfect. We don't necessarily always know their backstory, but to help them get a second chance, because there's just not, the ACC can't do it alone. This year alone, I got to foster 2 dogs from the ACC. I still have one right now, and they're incredible animals who were put at risk just based because there are so many dogs.
Yeah.
And there's just not enough homes. There's not enough people adopting. So this was a really eye-opening conversation. I think it really humanized the ACC. It made me want to support them even more. I'm so glad that our friend Isabel Klee kind of pointed us in her direction and made us aware of, how incredible they are, because this was one of my favorite conversations this year for sure.
Yeah, I agree. They do really so much, and I'm very grateful that they don't turn any animals away. I mean, I guess that's why they're so inundated and their facilities are overflowing. And we also talked about how there are all kinds of breeds of dogs in there. There's mixed breeds, there's pure breeds, there's really every dog that you're looking for. So if you or anybody is looking to adopt a pet, know that you should start at the ACC and that they might have exactly the dog that you're looking for. So that's a really good place to start. And you'll feel really good knowing that you are supporting an organization that's really, really absolutely doing their best. And has a team like full of really dedicated, intelligent, lovely people. So to parlay to another incredible organization, Rachel Ziering of Muddy Paws Rescue. We finally got to speak to her. She is the founder and the executive director, and it's a foster-based rescue in New York that has helped to save nearly 10,000 dogs in the last 10 years.
That's amazing.
Oh, like tell
amazing.
me about an incredible resume. That is goals.
And Rachel came from the rescue space. Before she started Muddy Paws, she worked at other rescues. She had the experience and she realized, there are some pitfalls in rescue. Things are done certain ways. She wanted to do things differently when she created Muddy Paws. And what was so interesting is how she has embraced technology to help her organization just scale and do things more efficiently, which clearly is a success because they're going to hit their 10,000 dog any minute now. And we really dug in this episode specifically. We wanted to talk to her about the open adoption model that they use, because while she's been doing it, for a long time, it's not the model that the majority of rescues use, right? I work in this space. I think how they are trying to lower the barriers to adoption. And rather than have someone apply and see if they're approved or rejected, it's really more about registering to adopt, the matchmaking of finding a dog that's the right fit, making sure that, we're placing as many dogs as possible, because the big point she hit was a dog with a home is better than a dog without a home, right?
Yeah.
There's so many dogs across the country that are sitting in shelters, that are at risk, that are being euthanized just because there isn't enough adoption interest. And there's other factors that we'll talk about, that lead to that, but let's not be part of the problem in rescue. Let's be part of the solution. Let's help place dogs and find them loving homes.
Yeah, there was a big stress on lowering the barrier to rescues, and she really emphasized giving people a shot. I mean, I think when animals are placed, there's always these good-hearted intentions to find the perfect home, with everything right. But Rachel's point of view is, well, there are still dogs sitting in the shelters, and if there is someone that is willing to give a dog loving care, has a home, and can feed them and can love them, let's give them a chance. And so I really love this perspective too, because in my 20s, I feel like, you might feel like you're not ready for it. But again, I know that there are some young people that have adopted that have really, really gone far beyond expectations in loving their dogs and really championing their dogs and getting involved in rescue fostering. So I think it's a really beautiful way to connect people with dogs. And she is a big tech person. And so I love that she's using technology to make the adoption and rescue foster process easier. So where things can be automated, made easier through technology, let's do it so that we
Yes.
can move faster and we can use precious human resources for the parts that matter. I love that for rescues.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how, I think I've talked about it before. I had such a hard time adopting my first dog. No one wanted to give a 25-year-old who was working a full-time job a dog. There are so many barriers, whether it's being a homeowner or do you work full time or all these different things. And it's just
Yeah.
like, you know what? That's not what matters. It's the life that you're going to give the dog is better than the alternative. So we really need to help lower these barriers. I think the other thing is if you're not ready to adopt, you're not ready to make that full time commitment, a lifelong commitment to a dog, foster. Please
Exactly.
foster. Oh my God. Fostering is so important because it is the bridge to a dog's second chance, right?
Yeah.
You are the loving place for it to stay safe, comfortable, get to know the dog, and then ultimately it goes on to its forever family. But rescues like Muddy Paws could not do what they do without fosters. So I know I talk about this all the time. It's something I'm incredibly passionate about, but like we need people to sign up to foster. We really do. We
Yeah.
need more. And if you can only do it short term, anything is better than nothing. So if you're interested, maybe this is your sign to consider fostering.
Yeah, and what I also love about certain organizations like Muddy Paws is I think Isabel also touched on this. They have foster situations for all kinds of scenarios and people. If you can give 3 days, great. If you can give 10 days, great. If you can do a medical foster, great. They're going to provide all of the medical care. They're going to provide the food if that's what you need. So a lot of people have this misconception of, well, if I foster, I'm going to have to pay out of pocket for the food, to care, like everything. A lot of these organizations recognize that that is a barrier and they will provide it for you. So you just have to check with the organization what they can do for you. But honestly, like, places like Muddy Paws will provide pretty much like everything. They'll provide the food, like transportation, everything. So please check on that because fostering really, really increases the chances of this dog getting adopted. Imagine being in a shelter in a cage and being on fight or flight mode, and then all of a sudden you're taken to a warm house where you're given space, love, maybe the company of another dog that you love. And the dogs are able to really, really unwind in a way where their actual personality comes out. And then you can complete their profile and say, this is their personality. This is what they like. They love toys. They love walks. These kind of profiles will make or break their life. So the foster phase is so, so crucial in really, really changing the trajectory of this dog's life. So even if it's for a short time, we really, really, really hope that you'll give it a shot. And, I think it's such a beautiful process, and foster dogs can teach us so much.
Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. It can be a lot of work. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, every dog is different, but it is the most rewarding experience. And you absolutely get back more than you put into it. So couldn't recommend it more highly. And the last guest that we had in the rescue space was James Bias, who is the executive director of Connecticut Humane Society, another organization that I have the privilege of working with. James has spent his entire life in the animal welfare space. He has built animal shelters across the country. He recently just spearheaded the initiative to open a state-of-the-art pet resource center in my backyard of Wilton, Connecticut. I cannot tell you how incredible this facility is. Like, it is amazing. And I think it's going to change the game in terms of supporting animals and their families in the local community.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
he's very smart because I remember at one part of the interview he was talking about how he makes all of these efforts to change legislation for animal welfare. So I love that his pulse is always on how can we push the needle forward in terms of law, in terms of facilities, in terms of figuring out what is the right dynamic and the right design for animals to thrive in the same environment. It was really, really inspirational to speak to someone who's, been in this space for so long. He was so passionate about sharing how the Connecticut Humane Society was started as well by one high school female student, a girl, Gertrude. We love her.
Back in the late 1800s, Connecticut Humane Society is the longest standing animal rescue in the state of Connecticut, which is just an incredible feat in and of itself.
Yeah.
And now they're not only focused on helping to find homeless pets loving homes, but their whole mission is now to help keep pets and their families together. So it's not just placing these animals in homes, but it's also helping to provide access to low cost and affordable vet care. They have pet food pantries throughout the state because they know that families are struggling right now. If they can help keep a pet in their home by providing access to food, that's a
Yeah.
game changer, right? James highlighted how there's a rising cost of vet care, the lack of access to veterinarians, housing restrictions. All of these things are up against families now that are leading them to consider rehoming or surrendering their pets. And so, if Connecticut Humane Society can play a role to help keep those pets in their homes, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. They have so much on their plate. It's like not only do you have to care about foster and adoption, you also have to make sure that, you know, families can keep their pets and like keep keeping them. What do they need in order to prevent them from returning this dog? And I think there's a lot of sort of bigger societal issues that are at play. But again,
Yeah.
this is a center for the community, and one of the things that I love most about the starting story, the inception story, is that, when this society was first formed, it was formed at a time when women couldn't vote and there was no protection whatsoever for children. The animal protection laws that were created as a result of efforts like this also helped cover um, children's protection. So it spurred on the children's protection movement. So when we care for animals, it's a ripple effect. It doesn't end there. It affects the larger society. And I actually really felt that speaking to James, that by helping animals, by showing the correct treatment, the care and love for animals, we also make it a baseline and expectation for everyone, for other people, children, other animals. And I think that's a really beautiful way to move forward as a society.
Yeah. Shifting gears, we talked about this was a new kind of area for us to dive into this season, but we had some incredible entrepreneurs in the pet space as well as content creators.
Oh, yeah.
Earlier on in season 2, we had our mutual friend Jen Halanga come on. She is a professional studio photographer, portrait photographer who has built a massively successful business photographing dogs called The Ways of the Dog. When Jen sat down with us, she talked about her evolution from being a family photographer to starting this business and how these evolving family structures, how people now consider their dogs as parts of their family, that they deserve to be celebrated and they deserve to be photographed in a way just like any other family member would. And that was just something that we've both experienced. And I know we treasure the beautiful images that we have of our dogs from Jen.
I'm gonna treasure it forever. Like honestly, we had our photo shoot in New York City, and every time I pass by the spots where we had the photo shoot, I just have like this beautiful, warm feeling of that memory in that moment with my late dog, and it's actually priceless. I don't even know how else to put it. But it's really highlighting, Jen talked about how she worked with families and now she works only with dog families, and she loves dog people, and she really, really is so involved in rescue, and you can just tell that she loves dogs and she knows exactly how to work with dogs too. There's a whole conversation about, you know, uh, what is your dog like? What does your dog respond to? And on the photo shoot day, I don't know how she does this. It's like magic. But like you get the photos and your dogs are just like so happy. They're like in bliss. And I love that she has the ability to read and capture them in their moment. Such a skill.
Yeah, as a mom of 2 rescue dogs, she talks about her experience fostering and foster failing, adopting her dogs. And how the important role that photography plays in helping a rescue dog get adopted. So not only does she dedicate her time at local events or featuring foster dogs that are looking for homes, but she also gave us tips to help, us take better pictures of our dogs. And you can do it on your phone, right? So she gave us really simple tips that we as just ordinary pet parents can take better photos from our iPhones or whatever we have just by adjusting the lighting, the background, and like the level that you're taking the photos on. So I was like, oh my God, everyone needs to know this because if fosters could take better photos of their dogs, they would get so much more interest. Photos are
Yeah,
so important. Like it's the entryway into possibly considering that dog to adopt them.
absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're a photographer, you're really good at photos. Maybe volunteer. That would
Yeah.
be so sick. To quickly go over it, it's basically make sure that you're in front of the light. And most people take photos of their dogs from above, and that makes them look super sad. So get on their level and make sure there's not too much clutter so the focus can be on your dog. And these three quick tips can really take a photo from it to like, wow, who's that
Yeah.
dog? Tell me more about that dog. So that's where we want to get at.
Yeah.
We also had Kristen Kidd, who is, again, an amazing professional photographer who also started this magazine called Dog Mom Magazine. And we're so happy to hear this because we need representation, y'all. Like, we're so happy it exists, like, period.
Yeah, and Dog Walk Magazine is all about celebrating the special bond that women have with their dogs. And Kristen is highlighting these incredible women whose lives have been forever changed and the good work that they're doing. And I mean, as a pet parent, like whose life hasn't been changed by your dog, right?
Yeah.
So, like, she's telling these incredible stories, and she's also building a community for dog parents to be seen and to feel heard and supported. And it's like, again, validating the experience that is being a dog mom when too often we are kind of put down by society or considered less than. She's like, no, this is valid. We deserve to be celebrating the role that our
Mm,
dogs have in our lives.
yeah.
I think Kristen's background in social work and professional photography has just uniquely set her up to do this. The magazine itself is beautiful, it's high quality, and not only is the product itself is beautiful and what they're doing is beautiful, but every issue gives back to a local rescue. So it's also doing good, which is something that we're both so passionate about. So like what an incredible
Incredible.
initiative. Yeah. And like
Incredible.
we got to be featured in the latest edition of Dog Mong magazine, which was like such a wonderful experience and such we're so grateful for the opportunity and we got to do individual shoots in our individual homes
The
with our
best.
dogs.
The best.
Yeah.
Like, what a what an amazing, like, I have the photos framed right there, and oh, the prints are so gorgeous. They're so high quality. And one thing I really love about Kristen too is like we highlight, the dynamic of different families. These days, a lot of people choose their pets instead of having kids, whatever the reason might be. And to see that and celebrate that for what it is, I think is very, very beautiful. We really choose our families, and she made me feel incredibly heard in our interview and incredibly seen. And I think that's important for every family to feel that way.
I couldn't agree more. And just shifting gears, to round out the season, we had an incredible badass female entrepreneur. Colleen Wilson is the founder of Pets on Cue, which is a one of a kind talent agency that represents working animals in entertainment, not just dogs, not cats, all types of animals, companion animals, and pets. She's been doing this for, I think, 10 years. She's a pioneer in the space. She is fighting to improve the treatment of animals in a humane way. She's also established this incredible digital marketplace called the Animal List, where pet parents can help get their animals and their pets booked in opportunities, but also people looking for animals for in working roles can also hire them. So it's like bringing both sides of the marketplace together digitally. So innovative. Another person who's, really embraced technology in the pet
Yeah.
space. Really, really cool.
Yeah, I think she called it the Fiverr of the pet world, where you can
Yeah.
like list and you can hire talent. And what I really love about Colleen is that, of course, you always have to navigate the working relationship between a client and a talent. But at the end of the day, what she's doing is creating these protocols and systems where, if there's a handler, they have to be certified. They have to keep learning in order to keep that certification. This raises the standards of the working situations when it comes to animals. We learned that even in production sets, there's very little protection for animals because even the agencies that are hired to protect the animals are paid for by the production. So inherently, there's a conflict of interest here. And what Colleen is doing is ensuring that the people that treat animals poorly do not get to work in the industry. She is very, very clear that there are animals that actually enjoy working, and you can tell because they light up in front of the camera. They love the attention, they thrive in this environment, and this is the perfect scenario. And she says, the best way to work with your animal is to do what they genuinely already love. And she even shared signs to tell when an animal is uncomfortable. So you can see through it and say, this is who I don't want to work with because clearly this dog is like not wanting to be here or like feeling forced to be here. So all of these tips were so helpful. And I like that she's raising the standards of animal working conditions. They really should be cared for in that way because like they can't say, "Hey, I'm too cold. Hey, I'm really tired. I really don't want to be." They can't say that verbally. So we need people to be able to read them, to be
Yeah.
able to advocate for them, to make sure that they're good and that they're enjoying themselves.
Again, the importance of understanding dog and animal body language and their communication. It's so important. And I think it's something we're going to have to continue to hit home, Yena, because there's a lot of room for people to learn how to do this better.
Absolutely. Maybe we should just do like an entire season of
We
this.
we might.
Just
Um,
little video tutorials of
seriously. And lastly, what a great guest to get as we wrapped up the season, Jackie Jacob. She's the content creator who runs the popular account. I'm sure you know them, Little Bear Lumi, featuring her beautiful Samoyed Lumi. Oh my God. Like,
Lumi is just a ray of sunshine. I just saw a photo shoot with like Lumi in front of some Christmas lights in the city. And I was like, oh, the feels.
yeah.
The feels.
Oh my God, what a special dog. And, Jackie talked about her experience as a content creator as something that she kind of fell into unintentionally after one of their posts went viral, essentially overnight. And she really was honest about the challenges of being a content creator and how you have to work so hard to continue to grow your audience while being authentic and staying true
Yeah.
to yourself and your dog. And like what Colleen said, doing what you and your dog love and making sure your dog is a willing participant. And also, how do you balance having like a working dog with just letting a dog be a dog?
Yeah. Yeah. I loved her honesty, and she really even stressed like when she went viral, she had to go and like YouTube how to work CapCut, and like I could really relate to this cuz yeah, I know what that's like. And she talked about how, even if the equipment isn't perfect, even if the lighting isn't perfect, sometimes your dog is just enough. Like, if there is a moment or a quirk or something special that your dog or cat does, capture it. Because honestly, like me personally, and I think a lot of people on the internet echo this sentiment, like, I want to look at dogs online. Like, that's really all I want to see. I want that serotonin. I want that for me. So, like, if your pet has a special thing, don't worry too much about what's going on, what the lighting's like. Just make sure you capture it. And don't be afraid to post it. She talks about how sometimes some of her best performing posts are not the ones that are the most polished. It's the ones that are the most real. And
Yeah.
it's happening in the moment so people can really resonate with this like personality of this dog that is literally like tongue hanging out like happy all the time. And it's such a beautiful thing. I don't think the market is too saturated. I always wish there was more pet creators. So I was really happy to have her come on the show and share her success story as well as tips on how to have that beautiful career with your animal. I don't know if you've seen this on TikTok, Laura, but there's this one lady that has like a few hamsters and she throws these cabbage parties. She's like, she plays this like amazing music and she's just vibing and she's like tossing cabbages at her at her
I have not
hamsters.
seen this.
And it's
Okay.
like the cutest thing. I just feel like in this scenarios, the hamsters have to do nothing. They just like are being fed yummy food. But everyone else is just enjoying the fact that they exist and they're having so much fun. So I love to see content like that and just to highlight and love on animals.
It sounds like it's definitely a vibe that's worth checking out.
Yeah, I'll have to
I
send it
I
to you.
really appreciated Jackie's honesty too when she talked about she's constantly training Lumi, right? Training is never done, just like mental health. Like we can always get better, we can always learn and grow. But
Yeah.
also she was really honest about like every day isn't perfect. Sometimes your dog doesn't want to cooperate, and you need to listen to that and give your dog time to just be a dog again, not force them to work and not fight it. Try to do best by your dog. So I thought that was really helpful to learn. And
Yeah.
also, I had to ask her, but Lumi was from a breeder. And so, as an advocate for adoption and rescue, I wanted to learn about her experience. And she was so open and willing to talk about what to look at in a breeder. How to
Yes.
really, like, she was very prepared. She spent 11 years preparing to get her first dog. So she learned everything there was to possibly learn about that breed, but it set them up for success. And I wish more people would do that and like do the research and do the legwork in finding an ethical breeder. And she shared the green flags and the red flags, which I think are something that everyone needs to know if you're going to choose to get a dog from a breeder.
Yeah, some of the green flags is if they're willing to show you the facility fully of where these dogs are living, if you're able to meet the parents, if they're able to be transparent about the parents' age and condition, if they are happy to share paperwork. The red flags would be if they are very hesitant to do all of these things. And also the handling and the care for the pups when they're very, very young. This is a very, very important stage for their health and development. So if they're not cared for in this period properly, there will be consequences. And if they're taken away from their parents too early, there will be consequences. So the right breeders will be very, very transparent with you about all of these things, as well as how they do everything. Because if you are proud of what you're doing, you're like happy and willing to share. But if you're doing something wrong, obviously you're going to want to keep things in the down low. She talked about how there's a breeder that she knows about that she's heard horror stories about, and they're still active. So there are bad breeders out there. There are also incredible breeders out there. As a parent, I think the responsible thing to do is to really do your due diligence and research so that you can make sure that you are getting your dog from the best licensed professionals.
And as someone in the rescue space, if you're looking for a specific type of dog, a specific breed of dog, like you can most likely find it in rescue as well. And
Also
so I
true.
say, like, give the dogs a chance there and do your search, but do your research either way.
Yeah,
Because as a dog parent, it is a huge commitment. And so you really need to be prepared.
yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
oh my goodness, Yena. Wow. We covered so much
I
this season.
know.
It's been such an incredible experience to continue to go on this journey with you. I think we've learned so much, but also realizing there's so much more to dig into. So I know we're both energized to keep going as we start thinking about season 3 in
Yeah.
the new year.
I'm so grateful too that we just got to get in touch with these people and they've agreed to be on our show and we've had such beautiful conversations. Laura and I also went to 2 rescue dog holiday parties and I don't know if I told you, but after the Best Friends Animal Society party, I came home and cried because I was just so grateful that we were surrounded by such wonderful people. And so I have a lot of gratitude. Oh, am I about to cry? No. So I'm just filled with gratitude and I cannot wait for season 3.
I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you and this experience. We're learning so much. I am so grateful to all of the guests that took their time to sit down with us, to share their knowledge and expertise and really open up. Also, so incredibly grateful to everyone who is following along on this journey, who is a fellow dog parent or dog lover who wants to learn. We're doing this for you and our dogs, our collective dogs. We want to make pet parenting easier. We want to enrich the lives of all of our dogs, and we want everyone to benefit from this. So, we say this all the time. We want your feedback. We want to hear what you think. We want to hear, what myths do you want us to tackle as we start thinking about season 3? What topics do you want us to dig into more? What do you want us to debunk? What experts do you want us to hear from? Like, we are all ears. We cannot wait to hear what you're interested in learning as we're starting to plan. We're going to take a break over the holidays, and then we're going to get back into it in 2026, which is just crazy to think about. But 24 episodes down, there's so many more to come. We're so excited, and we're just thankful for you for joining us on this journey with MythBarkers.
Absolutely. It's been a real one.